Retro. Retro.
G'day everyone, welcome back to the Late Afternoon Glass Off. As always, I'm joined here by my good friend Zach Whiteman.
Hello.
Zach, thank you,
Beer
sir.
for you, sir. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around, getting through this far. Oh, such a good sound.
We can't slurp either. No slurping.
Yes. Nah, I'm only kidding. I'll keep it to a minimum, promise.
Zach, you're fresh off the golf course. It
I am.
reeks of turf and disappointment in here. How'd you go?
I went good. I'll insert the clip here. It was worst ever.
Were you striking them at all well?
There was 3 or 4. I shot 62 on a 9-hole.
On 9?
Yeah, and there was a few there where the boys just felt bad for me, and they're like, "Oh, just kick it in, it'll be right." So it wasn't even a real 62, more like a probably high 80s if I counted every single one. Lost 2 in the water, 3 or 4 got stuck in the sand. I nearly burnt my golf clubs. I was angry.
He's got good golf clubs too.
Yeah, so that's the problem, Finley. I am textbook, all the gear, no idea.
I can vouch. I've hit this kid I think I touched on it previously, very naturally talented surfer. That has completely abandoned him on the golf course.
Unfortunately, no translation to golf.
0.
So I've got my my father-in-law. My father-in-law's clubs, they're Cleveland, and they're real nice, schmick, full set. And they're housed in a Lexus bag, so I look like a full wanker. And fortunately, I also look after Ruka as well as Billabong. So I'm decked out in Ruka Sport, as you can see. Got the golf tee. So I think everyone at the clubhouse is probably watching me get out of the car like, "Oh, who's this guy? He looks pretty good. You know, he's decked out, head to toe. You know, he's wearing a glove." Little does everyone know it's a mountain biking glove. It's not even a golf glove. They probably look at me and go, "Yeah, this guy's going to smack him well." And then they watch me and just go, "What the fuck is he doing?" It's that bad.
Yeah, you've got... And look, I can't really comment. I've played one round of 9 with you in my life.
Yeah,
and
a few good hits.
That was the only time I've ever been on a golf course. You strike them with all the grace of a deer on ice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's bad.
It's incredible.
I spend a lot of time in the rough, in the sand, just places where you don't want to be. I think the equivalent of me in golf would be when someone walks down to the surf shop, buys an X-Pro surfboard, keeps all the stickers on, and then goes, "I'm going to go one further, and I'm going to deck myself out with the brand that's on the nose as well."
Yeah.
And then they're going to walk down to Snapper or D-Bar, walk out, and there's naturally people who are going to be like, "Oh, I don't know who that is, but hey, it looks pretty good. He's strutting his stuff, and he's head to toe in Quickie or Billabong or whatever." And then they paddle out, and you watch them surf, and just go, surf's like an absolute donkey.
Yeah.
That's me, but in the golf world.
Yeah.
So it's pretty sad.
But it's a sport you can do. Like, it's not like surfing where there might be... You could be learning, but there might be a pretty terrifying rock jump or something of that sort that prevents you from actually entering the lineup. With golf, you just drive your car there, pay the money, and you're on the green.
It is accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
It is very accessible for everyone.
Maybe it shouldn't be.
It's too accessible for me. I should probably stick to the driving range or Knockrow Castle, putt golf. I'm not sure, but
Well,
long story short, I got aggravated.
Yeah, and well, it's a funny one, golf, because surfers for some reason have gravitated towards that sport. It's funny. It's like so many people we know that surf, or just in general, professional surfers. They all love golf. One of our mates,
What's
Leno.
the fucking hype about? Because I just fucking swore
That's
at every hole, and I feel worse off.
Yeah, and
what are they getting? Are they playing a different game?
Maybe Leno, our mate, he just recently got his first hole in one.
I know.
Well done to him.
In front of the clubhouse.
In front of the clubhouse, and
He got to ring the bell at Tevan.
yeah, but before that, he nearly walked off. I've heard. So
So good to hear.
yeah, he was about to walk off. So for anyone out there that might be struggling, just keep on going because you might strike luck. But
Nah, give it up. It fucking sucks.
he kept going. But yeah, what do you reckon that is with golf? Like, why do surfers gravitate towards it?
I don't know. It's hard. I think it's because it's the polar opposite to surfing, and it feels nice to do opposite things.
Yep.
Like a lot of surfers don't foil.
Yes.
It's too close.
Yeah.
It's fucking weird if you ask me. Look like they're like the golf wankers of the surf.
Sorry, Dennis.
And no one like kiteboards either.
Yeah.
You know how they're very close?
Yeah.
I feel like golf is like, okay, I'm going to have surfing and
Yep.
I'm going to keep that
Yep.
special.
Yep.
And I'm going to take up something different that's on land. Another big thing for me is it's less dependent on the weather.
Yep.
That's the kind of annoying thing about surfing at times is so many aspects, uncontrollable forces at play that it's what makes it special, but it's a blessing and a curse in the same
sure.
thing. Whereas golf, we played in drizzly rain today,
Yep.
and it was, I was almost going to say fun, but not today.
Yeah.
Not today. But I think that's what it is. It's a break.
Yeah.
And it's an enjoyable break. Today wasn't. I apologise for swearing and whatnot, but it is fun when you're with your mates. You're in carts. You're playing dodgem cars. you're drinking beers. Everyone's having a good hit every now and then. Everyone's shanking a couple. I think that's pretty special.
But like, there's also the argument that weirdly it is similar to surfing in that it takes forever to get good at. You can be just a regular Joe Blow off the street and go, I'm going to go play golf, and it might take you 30 years to start, like, you know, to feel like you're actually decent at golf. Similar with surfing, not so much if you learn when you're a kid, but as you get older and you try and like start learning, you see a lot of adult learners, there's every chance they'll never do a decent looking snap, you know, in their entire life.
It's a weird one. I know what you mean, but the frustrating thing for me is you'll randomly slice one and it's like a great hit.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas you're not doing that in surfing. If you're, say I've probably played 10 games of golf in my life.
Yeah.
And I might, chip one from 30 metres out and it might nearly go in the hole.
Yeah.
That equivalent in surfing is like accidentally doing a full road or something like that. You just
sure.
don't see that.
Yes, true.
So the frustrating thing for me is I'll chip one and I'll be like, whoa, and everyone's like, yeah, that was sick. And then you'll grubber a driver or you'll go to drive and you'll grubber it on the ground.
Yeah.
One really bad one was I just started working with the boys at Billabong and we went and played golf in front of all my new work colleagues. I was like, fuck, come on, man. If there's a God up there, I just need him here right now. I'm in front of my new colleagues.
Yes.
This needs to be good.
Yeah.
They're all really good. They play every Friday, every second Friday, whatever it is. Oh, I felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders. I'm standing there, ready to go, just going, oh, come on, please be kind to me. Big swing, hit the ball,
Yeah.
hit my foot,
Yeah.
went backwards.
Right.
So ripper start
You've
for
lost.
my first week at Billabong as the team manager. So still trying to recover from that one.
Yeah. And like
Brick of a sport.
you make a good point there as well. It's like similar to surfing. Like you can at times, you got your mates watching you, you got colleagues watching you, and you feel like you got a bit of pressure on your shoulders. And like with surfing, for me, that's exactly why I've pretty well just given up all hope of surfing heats anymore, because
Surfing heats.
I just cannot cope with it. Like I'll go out the point or I'll go out somewhere and have a really good surf and go, you know what, on my day I'm competitive with crew, and then you put me in a rashie for 20 minutes and I pretty much bury myself in the sand. Why is that? Like, why do you think some people can handle that and deliver under that pressure? You had a really good junior career. You're super humble about it, but you did very well in a lot of comps. You went to...
Why, thank you.
Yeah, you went to Aussies Worlds, you went to as well?
I did the natural pathway, like regionals into state,
Yep.
state into Aussies into ISA Worlds.
Yep.
Never made WSL Worlds.
Yep.
Me and WSL just didn't get along, not as in the people running it or anything like
For
that.
sure.
It's just WSL, I don't know. I feel like I kind of kicked ass during the smaller events.
Yeah.
You're surfing Australia events.
Yep.
And then when I got into the WSL, I don't know, kind of lost the legs. I don't think I lost the legs. I think everyone just got good quick.
Yeah.
I hit, this might be a a big shock to everyone who lived here and grew up around me. I hit puberty late.
Yes.
And I feel like I got to like 15, 16 and I went to an event and I was like looking at guys like Ethan, Quinn Bruce, Harley Ross, and they had fucking mows.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even have anything downstairs and they've got mows already. And I was like, fuck, all right. And then that translates into surfing. Obviously, when you're going through puberty, you grow real quick.
Yeah.
They just started doing man turns.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, far out. I don't know how to fix that.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
No.
It's just your body. And I think so that kind of hit pretty hard for me. But another thing was back to the heats and pressure. If I got off to a good start in a heat, I felt like I was unstoppable.
Yeah.
If I had someone do the opposite to me, like get off to a good start, far out, I'd crumble.
Yeah, right.
I'd crumble. I'd critique myself too much. I was my own worst enemy.
Sure. Yeah, and you can get right in your head with surfing especially, and I feel like that's part of the battle, like just having that belief in yourself that you're as good as these guys. You just got to go out, put yourself on the right waves, and you can beat them. Doesn't matter. That was probably me as well. Like growing up, like I had little like brands here and there look after me with certain things, but like
which is better than most
for sure. But like growing up, like you see a kid and he's got say a Billabong sticker on his nose or a Quicksilver sticker on his nose, and like that would beat me on the beach sometimes. I'd get on the beach and I'd go
fucking 100%.
Yeah.
And to be, I'm going to sound like a spoilt little bumhole here.
Yeah.
When I was fortunate enough. I got sponsored by Quicksilver. It was after I got 4th at the Rusty Gromfest.
Yeah.
I was 10 or 11. In that final was Jack Robinson. Sam Bond got 2nd.
You're right.
Don't know what he's doing. If you're listening, mate, reach out. I'm guessing a concreter.
Yeah.
And then 3rd was Kanoa.
True.
He was sponsored by O'Neill.
No way.
Yep. And then there was me, just no sticker. And I had everyone on the beach before the final go, you're going to get sponsored. You're getting sponsored. And I was just trying to tune it out. Ended up in 2nd for a bit. Knocked down to 3rd, knocked down to 4th.
Sure. Yeah.
But now I look back at it, pretty cool that those guys were in that final.
Yeah.
Sure enough, that's where I got sponsored. And then back to your point, ever since then, I would look at a heat draw and be like, is that person sponsored?
Yeah.
And if they weren't, it was kind of in a naive way of thinking. It's like, oh yeah, I've got an easy heat.
For sure. Yeah.
And then a few of the select crew that weren't sponsored just like clicked.
Yeah.
And then they all got sponsored.
That's it.
So for me, I was like, oh, he's not sponsored. And I'm talking about like Harley Ross before he was with Volcom. So, sorry, Harley, but when you were like 13 or something, I was like, oh, it's Harley. And then all of a sudden he's sponsored by Volcom. It's like, oh, fuck. He's sponsored by Volcom.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's definitely a mind game.
100%.
And when you look back at it, it's kind of silly, but it makes sense why you would think that way.
No, 100%. It would get me, like, and only recently, like, I've pretty much ceased doing comps. I'll do the odd one close to home, like there's a QS at Burley or something. I'll touch back on QS at Burley later from a few years ago. But
sounds like you've got some trauma there.
Yeah, I've got some unfinished business. I may have to do it again. But like as I've gotten older, I've kind of learnt that it's a sticker at the end of the day. It doesn't matter. You probably do, like on your day, if you get the right waves, you can surf as good as these people. And
100%.
Only later have I sort of realised that. Haven't really done comps in a while. I've been doing a few team events through Lee by board riders and like
board rider battles and things.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's not the ABB, but a few of the sort of small ones. Stratty and you came to that, which was pretty fun.
Came out of retirement just to go straight back in.
Yeah.
In my comfy seat, back in retirement after that.
But like you kind of as you get older, you realise that they're just people at the end of the day. They've got a sticker on the nose of their board, but it doesn't mean anything. And like for kids coming through as well, like it's pretty crucial. I think they know that because you can dead set beat yourself on the beach, and I've done it many times, and it's not the way to be. So you got to back yourself. But yeah, like back to the Burley comment.
Yeah,
before.
talk me through the Burley trauma.
All right, so this is trauma beyond belief.
Yep. You were saying it was only a couple of years ago.
It was probably sort of maybe early 2020s, like late teens.
Yep.
And I had a heat at Burley had some really good surfers in my heat, and I went out, and because I had really good surfers in my heat, I thought I had to sort of go out of my way, and I was waiting.
Surf outside your skin.
Yeah, but in doing that, I was waiting for a wave that actually didn't exist on that day. It wasn't actually there. So
Familiar with that one.
for what I was waiting for, it was never going to come. And I waited until about, I think, 7 minutes to go in the heat to actually utilise my 20-minute heat.
Yep.
I utilised priority at about the 7-minute mark, and I rode the wave. For reference, this was Burley. It was northerly, so onshore wind there.
Fantastic
And
conditions.
it was half a foot to 1 foot. So it was breaking directly on the rocks. I had Dakota Walters in my heat, and as you know, he can do an air on quite literally anything. So he was fine. He was flying out in the lead. I waited till 7 to go to use my prio, and I rode the wave into the rocks to the point where I actually lost my left side fin on the rocks. And because it was tiny and like a little bit onshore, it was pretty light wind, but it was onshore.
Yep.
That noise echoed across the whole of Burley headland to the point where the commentators acknowledged the noise of my fin snapping out of my board. And that was my start of the heat at 7 minutes. I actually managed to get a 4 with a middle and a side fin, which was
Interesting.
That's one of the highlights of my competitive career, believe it or not. But yeah, so that was I think it was my last QS, or maybe two QSs ago.
Yep.
So hence why I said before, probably maybe might need to make another showing at Burley just to redeem myself slightly.
Redemption heat.
But yeah, look, and you as well, some of those names you dropped before with the people that you came up surfing against, that was a pretty star-studded list. Who are some of the guys that in my division, I had a few crews. So I had Lobby, who's now on tour. Morgan had a stint on tour.
Yep.
Ethan was the older year of my division, so I versed him once or twice,
Yep.
I think. And then there was a couple others scattered in there. Yourself, you had Kanoa, Leo, Mikey Wright.
Well, it was weird. We were in a weird time where the WSL made some changes where the pro juniors used to be 21.
Right, which they are again now.
We got so fucking rinsed here. My age group, that is. So around 16, 17, started to mature in surfing. And that's when you go from your Surfing Australia comps and start heading into the pro juniors. I think most people are doing that now.
Yeah.
And so naturally I did that. But that means back then you were going into the 21s, under 21s. So that was like Jake Sylvester, Noah Dean, Creed McTaggart.
True.
They were at the top.
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
I was
Creed
16,
only a
17.
couple years older than you.
Yeah.
No way.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
And then, so it was pretty cool surfing against them. You get rinsed.
Yeah.
But you'd see, you get to verse them, you're like, oh, fuck yeah. Sure enough, yeah, you get sent home packing. But
right.
anyway, so then what happened was we surfed in that for a few years, maybe 2 or 3. No, it wasn't. It was about 1 year.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lied. And then WSL came out and said, all right, we're going to go to 18 and under.
Yeah.
I think it was 18 under, not under 18.
Yeah.
So quite quickly, we only had 2 years.
Sure. Yes.
So all of a sudden, you're almost at the top of the age group without doing anything, without
Yes.
even aging yourself.
So you hadn't had necessarily those
A
results where you were like, I'm the top of this age group, I should be winning or getting finals in
Yep.
these events. You didn't have that because the guys that were in that division were doing that. And then by the time it was your time, didn't exist anymore.
And it come up quick.
Right, yeah.
So we only had a year to 2 years max of the top age group, which is that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
For when you're a Grom, obviously Challenger and all that shit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But when you're a Grom, you want to be at the top of your age group because you're expected to win.
Yeah.
You don't want to get beaten by 15-year-olds and
For
things
sure.
like that. Gave the Pro Junior, that was when Subway was running it.
Yes.
Subway Pro Junior.
Yes. Yeah. Some of the best comps I remember.
They were, and
You'd
they-
rock up and at lunchtime, massive platter of Subways would get brought out.
Don't
huge
lie,
platter
you went
of
straight to the cookies.
I went to the cookies first. I'm not
Cookie
gonna lie.
monster.
But yeah, great events. But sorry,
was.
go on.
It was. So, and that kind of era was Ethan.
Yes.
Ethan, he actually went on to win, I think he won out of the 6 or 7 events, he won 5 of them.
I was in his first heat of that run of that year.
Yep.
So I got.
You gave him the buffer. You gave him the little push.
I gave him the walkthrough in his round 1 heat that he may have needed to succeed. But yeah.
Yeah, so that's, we felt a little robbed there because I didn't get the result. I ended up finishing 5th. And to go to Worlds, you need to get 2nd or 3rd
Right.
back then. So I was like, fuck, I only really had one shot and I didn't get off to a great start. I did get a second against Quinn Bruce at WA.
Yeah.
And then a few mediocre results, and Ethan just went on to... That was when he went on this huge roll.
It was
So he
nuts.
won the Pro Junior, and then the year after... So he won the Pro Junior, and then World Juniors come up
Yep.
against Griffin.
Yep.
He won that.
Won that.
Then he won the QS.
Yep.
All like fucking bang, 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 bang,
It
bang.
was
So we were there
crazy
on the
rise.
Pro Junior like, is this fucking normal? Are we supposed to be doing this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Turns out now that we look back on it,
He's a freak.
no one's doing that really.
No.
So he just kind of smashed it. But I will say, I'll hold this dearly. Port Kembla, I got the one up on him.
You beat him?
That's the last heat that we've
Beautiful.
had. So I've got the last one. That's why I
Beautiful.
went into retirement. So I
Yeah.
can never break that.
Yeah. 100%.
I got one up on him, frothing on that, and that's... Well, he got the true one up, didn't he? He
Well-
went on to literally become third in the world
You're-
pretty quickly.
You're now working for the brand that he's pretty much the top team rider of.
Yeah, and
so
it's fucking sick. I love it.
it's amazing.
It's a full circle.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool. Had an interesting one, but back to it. So the WSL then said, after I aged out and went to the QS, after about 2 years, they went, oh, I'm going to go back to 21. I was like, fuck. And guess how old I was?
22 or something.
21, 22. And I went, oh, fuck. Just they ruined us.
Yeah. Well, I had a similar thing to you as well because I'm only a year younger than you. So
Yeah,
the
you
same
would have
thing.
had the same issue.
It was so annoying because it doesn't give it's a weird one that too in that. So yeah, realistically, if you're good enough and you're going to make the tour, you should be really competing at that QS level probably at the age of 18, which is when the QSs stop.
Yeah.
You get the odd person here and there, like your Wade Carmichaels of the world, that qualify later in life.
Yeah, but then you've got the outlier on the other side, your Ethans.
Yes.
Your Ockies, your Owens,
Yeah.
your Kalohe Andinos.
They just blitz it.
They're the ones that you go, what the fuck am I doing at 18? I feel old.
Yeah, for sure.
But they're outliers.
Yeah.
They're outliers.
But it gets, like, for those guys, they get straight on. But then there's every year there's someone that makes it that, you know, you probably didn't expect to make. And maybe they hadn't had the craziest results as a junior. And it gets rid of those sort of 2 or 3 years of development coming through surfing more heats. Because you go from, it's a rude awakening going from your under 18s pro junior heat, the scoring in that, to then, like they say it's lined up, it's kind of not. Like
it's not.
The pro junior scoring is vastly different to your QS scoring.
100%.
And you kind of go, it's a rude awakening. You go from that under 18s division, and then your next stop is a QS. So you go, sweat, I'll enter this. And you do 5 of the 5 turns that you're pretty happy with, and they read out the score, and you got a 5, and you're like, right.
Deflating.
Last year that was an 8. You know, like
It's a rude shock.
Yeah.
But it needs to happen
For sure.
at some point.
yeah.
But yeah, it's feels like we got a little robbed. Thanks, WSL.
Yeah.
But now that I look back on it, I don't regret a thing. Had fun.
Absolutely.
I had a lot of great memories. Sometimes I feel like, oh, should I throw the Rashi on? And then others, I'm just like, I'm actually truly content.
Yeah.
Got to travel the world.
But you went to Worlds. Talk us like how that went for you.
I went to Worlds with some pretty sick crew. I went to Ecuador, and I bet you a lot of people out there are going right now on Google Maps going, where the fuck is Ecuador? And you're going to spell it wrong. It's actually EC. Funnily enough, Surfing Australia in our uniform, it was a bit like this, same colours, and they spelled it EQ.
Right.
And we're marching down the opening ceremony with a typo.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh shit, that's no good. But yeah, I went to Salinas in Ecuador. That was really cool. And I feel like I met a lot of great people there. Because back then, that's where everyone kind of congregated.
Well, it's the best of the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the US team, we were hanging out a lot with like Griff. Who else was back then? Like Nick Hdes. I don't know if he's still kicking around.
Yeah.
For the Costa Ricans, it was like Neymar McGonigal.
Yep.
And then his sister was there as well. Everyone was trying to chase her. That's always going to happen when you send the world's best everywhere. It was like Love Island almost back then. Hey, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Obviously, we were young, nothing happened. Don't go there, you dirty dogs. We were juvenile.
Yeah.
But man, it was fun. They ended up booking us. It's pretty much the Gold Coast, but in South America.
Yeah.
Without waves, there was this. You had to get a bus into it an Air Force base.
Sure.
So every day we're going through like a bomb check, like the whole mirror under the bus.
Yeah, right.
Guys come on with like AKs and shit just to search the bus, and then you drive into this La Ferrera. I think that might be it. I don't know. It's like a point break, and it had like sea lions and like seals everywhere, and
True.
it was a pretty wild experience. So really happy that I got to enjoy that.
And who was in your heats there? Like, who were you versing?
Victor Bernardo.
And he's incredible.
He was in the 18s.
Yeah.
He wasn't in my heats. I was in the 16s.
Yeah.
But I remember he had a kind of rough style back then.
Yeah.
And whenever he was up against it, he'd just do a rodeo.
Sure.
Just default.
Sweet.
No turn, rodeo. And they'd go, oh, fuck, we better give that an 8 or a 9.
Yeah.
And then someone would do some really nice surfing, and then he'd be like, oh, I need a score. Oh, it's all right, I'll just do a rodeo. I remember that from that. But I think it was 2015, so it's a while ago now.
Yeah.
Man, there was some good times there, but yeah, that was one of many good trips.
And what about like some of the Brazilian crew that would come through? Like, were you in any of the age group of that sort of Brazilian storm, like Iago Doras of the world, or? Not
really. Iago's a bit older.
Right.
I did verse him at Sunset. He sent me packing quick.
At Sunset, what was that for?
HIC, I think it was called back then.
Did you do a comp at Sunset?
Yeah.
No way.
Sunset, just putting it out there, fucking worst wave.
Sure.
I'm so glad they got rid of it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Hawaiians. It's shit.
You're quickly ticking off a list of places you can't visit any longer. You've gone through Vico, you've gone WA, you're no longer allowed there. Now Hawaii.
You're going to have to become a hermit crab. But yeah, lots of great spots.
Yeah.
Lots of good memories. So
for sure.
Pretty happy that I get to cherish those for the rest of my days.
Yeah, and like a few of those crew that you talked about, they obviously kicked on. Ethan, Kanoa, Iago, all those guys.
Yeah, but a lot didn't. Well, there's a lot of names that I could rat off, and everyone would be like, yeah, I remember that guy. Like, obviously the younger crew, maybe not.
Yeah.
But like for crew my age, Jack Jermaine.
Sure.
Was one. Sam Bond was another. So Jack was sponsored by Billabong, and he was the one that when you got into heat, it's like you heat draw, you're like, oh,
like prodigious talents that were coming through, and you just did not want to draw them. You're just
you're like, oh god. Sam Bond was the same. He was sponsored by Vulcan.
Yep.
I remember one day at State, he got knocked out, and he was in the car park, and he was like 16, and I remember it because he had L plates on his car. He had a station wagon.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's got knocked, Dad. Well, time for a beer. He cracked a beer. Like he was a man child too. Like,
yeah. Like no one's pulling him up in the car park going, are you over age? They're just going, you look like you can drink beers.
He still looked young, but like, I don't know. It was like the Vulcan look back then was like that core, like, don't give a fuck.
Like Durry's in the car park type energy.
So,
I'm with you.
I hope he's well. If he's out there, I hope he's well. But it was kind of sick. I was like scared to do anything, and he's having beers, and then. So yeah, it was an interesting time.
For sure. And like, those guys that did kick on, a few of those guys that you did verse in your division were pretty incredible surfers. Like some of the better like heat surfers, you'd think like Ethan Ewing is obviously he's amazing just with his style. Like he gets. You don't want to call him style points because some of his turns are as good a turn as you could possibly do on a wave, but he just looks so good. They can't help. They have to give him a big score every time he takes off. If he finishes a wave,
it's like artwork. Yeah,
it just looks pleasing on the eye. And if he takes off on a wave at like your snapper or J-Bay or something like that, and he gets to the end, it's at least a 7. Like if he finishes that wave, they have to because he just looks too good and his turns are so good.
It's almost like crew can go out and do air reverses and stalefish air revs and all that kind of stuff, but what he has is truly rare.
Yeah, it's almost a throwback.
You have to reward rarity. You just I don't even know if that's a word.
No, but it's like high performance rail turns. If that makes it, you know what I mean? Like it's like a throwback to back in sort of the 90s and 2000s where guys sort of. They were doing airs, but they're not the airs that you see today. No. And they just were known for their massive turns. And he's got that, but he's doing it on a level that's better than airs. You do a full rotation air, or you do one of Ethan's big hacks at J-Bay, it's like they're comparable. You have to give it a score.
Yeah.
And those guys coming through, like there's some of the better people to watch in heats. Like I think Kanoa, who you mentioned as well, he's really good to watch. not one of my favourite surfers. I do admire his ability in heats to back himself though, and he oftentimes, especially sort of your more high performance waves, like I remember Karamis, obviously a really good result there.
Oh, that was sick. Steph won.
He won as well.
Yeah, him and Steph won. That was such a good event. That was one of the better viewing events in a long time.
For sure. And he, like that event just sticks out in my mind. It was a while ago now, but just really, really crafty, like could make scores on waves that sort of maybe weren't calling for that score, but he'd surf his way through it. And he's one of those guys that really backs himself, and he surfs really smart heats. Yep. He just knows what to do and when to do it. Ethan's another one, really patient, but when he takes off, he's generally on a set, and he's generally finishing it as well. He's generally finishing his last turn. Few of the other guys, you kind of then translate that to a Philippe, say, or a Yago, and their wave count's really high. They're getting.
You're missing one critical one here.
Who?
I think Gabby.
And Gabby, yeah, of course.
I reckon Gabby is one of the most enjoyable surfers to watch.
Those the Brazilians in Australia, for whatever reason, they don't have the best name, but those guys are some of the most enjoyable people to watch surf heats, I find, anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter if it's maybe not so much Philippe in your bigger waves, but like Gabby, Yago, any location you can rock up and you turn your computer on and they're in the heat, and you're gonna have fun watching that heat. Like it's enjoyable to watch, and it's like different styles of surfing, and it's I guess it's formed from like where you grow up. So they're growing up on beach breaks, generally shorter interval usually on those things. So there's lots of waves, lots of peaky sort of beach break setups around there, and all they're doing is they're catching waves, they're getting a lot of reps in. They're trying their airs from a young age. They're landing them and they're getting good at them quickly, and they're really good when the waves aren't good. That's another thing. But then for some reason they've got so much sort of dog in them that when the waves do get bigger, they want it. Barring say Philippe for that, he has tried. He's tried to improve in those big waves. He's sort of done a few trips to Chopes, and when the swells are up, and he's packed a few, but he's sort of not included in that conversation. But like a lot of these Brazilian guys, they're not afraid to go. They obviously maybe they want it really bad, but I think you're a product of your environment. And then you go to like your Ethans or sort of people that grew up on point breaks, your Parcos, your Mix, all those guys. And a lot of the time you notice of them, they're not having that rapid approach where they're catching 10 plus waves a heat. They're waiting for probably 4 to 6 waves.
Yep.
And they're surfing 3 to 4 of them really good.
Well, like you said, you're a product of your environment.
Yeah.
It's hard to break away from that, especially when you're a product of your environment for so many years, like growing up on the points.
Yeah.
It's going to be really odd to go and try and get 1,000 waves on a point. It's just not gonna happen. But
sure.
I really do tip my hat to the Brazilians as a whole.
Yeah.
There's a few that probably won't be in the picture, but go back 5-10 years, everyone was saying it was the lingo of everywhere. Brazilians just don't charge.
Yeah.
They fucking do now.
They do.
They do now. Yeah. And I think Gabby really bridged that gap at Chopu back when I think it was a final with Owen.
Yeah.
That was just like, all right, well, guess what? Brazilians fucking charge now.
It was even before that, I think. It was the year, and off the top of my head, I don't know it, but he had a year at Chopes when it was macking. It was huge. And he didn't fall off until the final. He made every single wave until the final.
Yeah.
And then he actually had a fall in the final because I guess he was just like, well, I've gotten this far, I may as well have
Start toying with it a bit.
For sure. But he just went, and he was so talented at that time that he just made every wave. And I think for him that was probably, it woke him up a little bit and went like, oh, I can do this. Like I'm good enough to do this. And then ever since then, he's just been an animal. And you rock up at any of these waves, you've Chopes, Pipes, Fijis, like Cloudbreak. He is a threat at every single one of them, and I'm pretty sure he's won all of them as well.
It goes back further. And I've got some homework for you,
Right.
and homework for our viewers or listeners.
Hit me.
King of the Groms, I think it was Madawi Burley.
Right.
Watch him. I think he does like 4 straight airs on one wave.
Right.
That's when I learnt about him. He would have been 17, 16, 17. I remember one of my mates showing this, just going, dude, have you seen that guy do 4 straight airs on one wave? And I was like, no. Remembering the time, It's kind of like, whoa. I feel like that's when Brazilians were on the map.
Right.
It's like, we're here.
Yeah.
I feel like he was pushing it back then.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you haven't seen it, King of the Groms, Quickie Comp, I'm pretty sure it's Madawi, somewhere warm.
Right.
He's doing punt, does a snap, does another air, snap, air, snap, air, and then he gets a 10 or something, and it's just like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. And like I don't think his ability was ever in question. It was just more that name that they've, again, for whatever reason they've got and they don't charge. But he came through that, and he's a threat at every barreling location that they rock up at. Backhand, front side. He's got one of the more memorable 10s at backdoor for a goofy footer.
Yep.
I remember that against Connor Coffin, I believe, and he was on the ropes, and he went bang bang. He got a 10 going backdoor, which is unheard of, really, because most of the goofy footers there, they don't even look. Why would you? You got pipe, like you're going left.
Yeah, unless the swell's predominantly pushing that way, then.
But there was lefts. Like there was lefts that day, and he just was like, I'm going right, and he got a 10 going backside, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, for like they got that name, but like they're incredible in big waves. Even your Kai Abellis of the world, he's had some looks at chokes when it's big, and he goes. He's not necessarily someone that you'd ever look at and go like, oh, like you charge, or like you're even like one of the better surfers in the world. Like he's on and off tour, you know, like he's not a mainstay of the tour, but he will go another guy, you know, and it's impressive to watch. Like I've got a lot of time for him, but yeah, they're good to watch.
Miggy's in there as well.
Well, Miguel Chopupo.
Jaddy boy.
Jaddy's got some of the better wipeouts. He's
he's
scorpioned himself a number of occasions. I think the box, maybe. I think he got pretty injured actually, but
I remember Mello getting smoked at the box. If you haven't seen that one, watch that.
That was
full compression chamber.
Yeah,
that was gnarly.
Yeah, but yeah, look, those Brazilian crew, they're good to watch in big waves, and also like back to the heat side of things, they're good to watch in heats because they're active.
100%.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. What I think is a bit of the shit thing about surfing and viewership is surfing is not active.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you are watching the camera film the back of someone bobbing up and down in the ocean.
Yeah.
Looking.
Yeah.
So at least that crew are out there going, well, far out. I'm not going to get here and get cold.
Yeah,
I'm just going to keep moving.
I'm going to surf.
And then guess what? They probably start scoring you. Well, they start getting some pretty crazy scores underneath you as well.
Yeah.
And then what I used to hate, getting back to myself being super selfish, is when people would be like, oh, you just should have went. It's like, sorry, man, didn't take my crystal ball out there.
Yeah.
I hated it when crew would be like, oh, you should have gone that second one. It's like, what? When you're out there, like, you don't know that. You can't see over the wave.
You weren't actively trying to lose the heat. Like, if you knew that wave was going to...
it used to grind my gears when someone wanted to say, oh, if only you just went that second one, eh? And you're like, what do you mean? I didn't know there was a fucking second wave. Otherwise, I would have gone it. Wouldn't be here having this conversation.
Sure.
Oh, man, it's so annoying. And you hear the commentators do that too on some of the broadcasts, and you're like, yeah, because you're sitting in the booth and you can see the fifth wave in the set from up in the tower.
For sure. And because there's two different types of surfing. So you've obviously got your contest surfing and your free surfing. And the contest route's probably the more, say, lucrative. Neither, at this point in time, neither are really that lucrative. But if it's a more sort of straightforward solution, you know?
Sorry to interrupt, Beer.
I'm still going.
You're good.
Yeah, like it's a more straightforward direction to becoming a pro surfer.
That was close. Yep, sorry.
It's the
more traditional route.
Yeah, well, you know, if you get good enough and you qualify, you're going to make a living.
Yes.
With free surfing, sure, there's you've got to surf good to be a free surfer, but
you've got to have a completely different look.
Yeah, and you do, and that comes down like there's people that are sponsored, paid athletes, and they've kind of ditched the thruster setup or your high performance surfboard. Mm-hmm. Purely because they had to make a living out of surfing, like because they weren't going to be contest surfers, and you can't really achieve that look on a thruster. You can to a degree, like your Noah Deans and your Craig McTaggart.
Are you referring to like a Torren Martin or something?
Yeah, or like even your Mackenzie Bowden, you know, those sorts of guys, and they go, all right, I've come through Asher Pacey, I've come through a lot of those guys. You don't realise they've had pretty good junior careers too. They just go, I'm not going to make a career out of this. Let's jump on a 20 or let's change my look a little bit, make it a bit more marketable, and brands will look after you, brands will pick you up. And there's those two routes, but surfing is it's a sport where you're literally at the mercy of your environment. There's really no other sports like it. To be fair, like
I'm a free golfer.
Yeah, well, just like
I'm a free bowler.
literally, but like even just doing it competitively more so.
Yep.
Obviously, free surfing, you might have, I don't know, you in your contract you might have to put out a clip, once a year or something. You might have to put out a movie part, and that will keep the brand happy. And you've got a whole year to surf thousands of times if you want to get enough clips to fill out a half an hour to an hour movie part.
Yep.
And drop that clip, and it's going to be impressive because you've had 1,000 surfs to do it in, and people are going to enjoy watching it. Whereas like competitive surfing, you've got half an hour in that jersey, and you could be literally as good a surfer in the world that anyone's ever been. But
more often than not, the best surfer never wins.
yeah, well, like it does, it changes, but yeah, occasionally that doesn't happen, and like you could be in your prime sitting there and the wave doesn't come, and you're just like
it's cruel.
You're not
it is honestly a cruel sport.
Yeah, you're not given your opportunity to perform.
Yeah.
Because it's not like on a tennis court or like playing basketball. It's really like you might have an off game, but you can do things outside of that or even footy, like rugby league's a good example. So like if you're having an off game, you can get involved. You can sort of go, I want another run, give me the ball, or I'm going to make sort of 2 or 3 tackles this set.
Yep.
To make up for an error I made, or I'm like, just to get yourself back in the game. Surfing, you could just be sitting there bobbing up and down in the Pacific Ocean or whichever ocean you're in, and half an hour, 20 minutes is up, and your watch goes, and the hooter goes, and you're packing your bags and you're heading home.
It's a game of probability.
Yeah, and it's...
rather than skill at times.
Yeah, obviously...
Wave pools? No. But I honestly believe...
And certain good waves too. Like, generally, like I always bring J-Bay as an example, but it's such a good wave, and you see a lot of times like the best surfer in that event's winning.
Because it creates opportunity.
Yeah, you get in good waves. Almost every wave out there's good. So it's
almost there's no equality in a heat.
No,
in a natural ocean.
Yeah, and that's probably why as well. Like a lot of like you saw that Brazilian storm come through. It's because it's so well adapted to surfing.
They can pivot.
Well, they know that they've got that one turn that can get them a 5 or a 6 if they're in trouble, and they're just surfing, and you can get left behind surfing if you're not being active. Obviously, you keep drawing back to them, Ethans of the world, they'll generally find a good wave and they'll rip it, but like you're not giving yourself every opportunity. The Brazilians give themselves every opportunity to turn scores in, turn the heat over, keep active in a heat, and again, high wave count usually goes in your favour. It's usually
just
a good thing.
Shame that some of the Brazilians out in the water at home just think they're in the same event, but they're just at the local.
Yeah, we're not pretending like they're in a CT, but they're not. But look, they're just hungry. They just want it, and it's good
totally
to see.
Understand. It's because if you play by their rules at their house, you can see why. You go to Brazil, you go, oh, it all makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think one of the best conversations I heard was just not long ago, last year, the tail end is, I think, who interviewed Matthias? Was it Stab? I think it was Stab.
Yeah.
They interviewed Matthias Hurdy, and they said pretty much what I just said, like, why are Brazos so hungry? And hungry can also be confused with arrogance. And he goes on to talk, I urge everyone to listen to it, because I was actually blown away about how truthful he was.
Yeah.
He actually tipped the hat towards Aussies and Americans and stuff for just being kind of a bit cooler.
Yeah.
And it's because they come from a world of sport.
Yeah.
Sport is Mecca.
Yeah.
Sport is God, God.
Yeah.
It's as big as God. So if you get in the way of that, it's like they'll walk over you.
Yeah.
So now, after hearing that conversation, I have a whole new perspective around Brazilian surfing. And when they paddle out at home and they're keen, I go, that's why.
Yeah.
It's because it's a different way of life for them, and now it's like, okay, I can see why they care so much. Yeah. It's like soccer for them. Yeah. I'm not sure. I've never been to one, but I've heard their games there are crazy.
Yeah.
You say the wrong thing, you're probably getting killed.
You're getting taken out of the car park.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it stems from, and that's why they're so hungry.
Yeah.
And hungry also translates into what you're talking about. They're always going to be getting waves.
Yeah.
They their ability up against the wall or in the corner is way better than the majority.
Yeah, because they need to do it. If
100%.
Yeah, like they have to. It's their
That's
life.
another thing. We're kind of a spoon-fed, including us.
Yeah.
We're a spoon-fed generation of, and I feel like America's kind of doing that as well. Like, it's too easy for us.
Yeah. So yeah, like that. You've got that aspect of it, and then you've got the free surfing aspect of it. Like, what is that like for you? So obviously you are team manager of Billabong Ruka. So like when they're coming into discussions with things like that, obviously you've got I don't know if you call them KPIs, but you've got your performance indicators on both sides. Like, what are you looking for in a free surfer, say, compared
It's simple.
to yeah?
It is simple. There's only one thing.
What?
Does the athlete drive product sales?
Yeah, sure.
There's no need to glorify.
Yeah. Are we getting a return on our investment?
At the end of the day, an athlete is an investment.
Yeah.
This whole sponsorship game is a business.
Mm-hmm.
The faster an athlete figures that out,
Yeah.
the more successful they'll be.
Yeah.
And that'll translate into all aspects of their life. So I think a lot of free surfers get caught up in the arrogance of, I'm worth this, or I'm not doing that, I'm this. Good luck to you. It might work for a bit,
Yeah.
but those days are gone of the glory old days that you hear of just kind of crew floating around and
Yeah.
putting out a video part maybe once a year. And I feel like to be successful free surfer nowadays, you have to be, and a lot of people hate this, you'll have to be self-promoting. It's a job.
It's like shame. You've got to be almost shameless in your approach to that. Hey, you've got to just not
You can do it a right way.
Yeah.
I think if you're jumping on TikToks, and I've already heard other surfers doing this.
Well,
like,
that's what I'm referring to in that, like,
literally
TikTok.
making, like, jumping on algorithms.
Yeah.
Like, that's just fucked.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Yeah.
You'll get success. It will be short.
Yeah.
It'll be a big spike and it'll plummet because then next there'll be some other trend and whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a right way to do it.
Yeah.
You just got to be smart about it. Have good people in your corner. Have good people saying, look, do this, do that. But yeah, if you just think that someone's going to pay you to sit around and drink beers on the beach and act like a mad dog, then
Yeah. It's not
I
gonna
think those
happen
days
for
are gone.
you. Yeah. Yeah, because like it's an investment for you guys, and TikTok and Instagram and all those things, like following's obviously a big one. Like, are you taking into consideration?
It is, but it's not at the same time, because what we're seeing is, well, not we, I don't really run all the analytics, we've got people in the building for that, but if someone's got 1 million followers, doesn't mean 1 million people are clicking through.
So yeah, you're looking at
Click through is
engagement.
a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you got 1 million people and one person went onto the website, it's like, well, I bet you if me and you put that up, 3 people will go on.
Yeah.
That means we are more beneficial to the company.
Yeah.
I feel like this next wave will be the micro influencers. Your 5,000 followers to like 100.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where the money's at.
Okay.
And lots of simple things, not...
So just being, are you saying in that, like, you may not have that huge following.
Don't need it.
Yeah, but like as long as you're posting the right stuff and posting consistently and drawing the right kind of attention to the brand.
Again, I keep going back, you're a business.
Yeah.
What would a startup do?
Yes.
You're not going in going, I'm going to make golf balls that are
Sure.
the same fucking golf ball that's already on the market, because guess what? There's 100 golf balls out there.
Yeah.
And then thinking, well, why aren't I worth this? I'm worth this.
Yeah.
I've got this product. You have to find a niche. You have to find something that's not tapped into or flogged out.
Yeah.
And if you can find that, there's success there.
There's a job there for you.
And some good examples of that is Torren Martin.
Yes. Well, he's completely gone the opposite way, and it's really worked out for him.
He was a high performance surfer back in the day,
Yeah.
doing pro juniors, doing
Yeah.
everything. Saw a niche and went, I'm going to try that.
And was
look where he's
early
at
to
now.
it. Early
now
to
people are going, oh, he's just like Torren Martin.
Yeah.
It's like, now he's going, sweet.
And he's just going, yeah, look, I'm sailing across the Pacific Ocean. I'm going to countless different Indonesian islands. Like, just give me some money and the brands will do it. They'll go, yeah, just give us some footage at the end of it and, like, go for it. And that's just his job now. So he just, like, that was literally one of his recent movies he put out. He's just sailing in a boat.
Calypti?
I think Calypt, yeah. And he just was just sailing around and surfing.
Man,
and
he's got some good stories.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. I went on a surf stitch trip to New Zealand. We shared a Winnebago, and he was just like telling us some crazy stories. So not only is he making money off it, he's getting like a full experience out of it as well.
Yeah.
Like he's travelled the globe. He surfed real good Morocco and whatnot. But yeah, he's incredible. I think he's one. Asher Pacey's another.
Yep.
Again, probably the king of the 20 at the
sure.
moment. And I think your Mackenzie Bowden's like going down that comical kind of route, as well as surfing. There's probably a market there.
Yep.
If I was a betting man, I think if there's any young women out there, the big wave market is probably.
Yep. And women's surfing as a whole as well.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
it's
if you're an up and coming young female surfer, you are about to experience the glory days. I feel like the men have had the glory days.
Yeah.
And it was at almost the cost of women.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's going to be it's going to flip.
Yeah.
Well,
Nike just picked up Sierra Kerr. They haven't been in surfing in God knows how long.
Yeah, long time.
And it's like
and they weren't even. Yeah, they were in it, but they were obviously paired up with Burley and whatnot. But,
but they're not silly in that they've identified that sort of lady surfing is coming, and you can't ignore it. And
they're like Rebel. They've got their eye on everything.
Yeah.
They don't attach themselves until they go, this thing's going to create a return.
For sure.
I just keep coming back to business.
Yeah.
If you're a young person out there trying to be a free surfer, you need to quickly learn that you are a business.
Yeah. And so you're like Billabong's team or whatever, like doesn't even necessarily have to be Billabong, but is there discussions around like how much do you have like an equal share of free surfers to comp surfers?
No, not at all. we wouldn't even think about, like, we would never have a meeting going,
right,
oh, our ratio's out. It's just
as in like though, would you
whoever
have
brings us the money.
Sure. So if they're looking like they're going to return on your investment, then they're a pretty good shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I don't want to sound like we're using everyone. It's a symbiotic relationship.
For
Both
sure.
parties benefit.
Definitely. Well,
that's the best way.
You just said Tyron Martin. He's traveling the world, doing exactly what he wants to do, living his best life, and it's both ways. He's providing a service to the company, and the company's providing him with the capital to do it. So it's like it's a symbiotic relationship, but. Yeah, it's just interesting to me. Like, so there's no real like you go, oh, we need X amount of free surfers and X amount of comp surfers, or it's just like sort of open slather.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No.
Interesting. But yeah, it's just like that's a funny one. Like, there's the free surfing looks so much more enjoyable if you can make.
Yeah, but there's a myth. That's a myth.
Yeah.
I spoke with Jai Glindemann not long ago.
Sure.
He's obviously a free surfer.
Yeah.
It's a lot. You're away. You'll be sitting at home and there'll be a swell and you go, all right, I have to go. You might have your best mate's birthday the next week. It's like, well, this is a job.
Yeah.
It's no different. So yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
And at times it is unimaginably good.
Yeah.
But just know there is times where it feels like a grind.
Yeah.
There's going to be times when you're going to fly somewhere and you want to do really well and get a swell or get good waves and it's shit.
Yeah.
Jai, again, went to Japan with Griggs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got nothing.
Nothing.
You just have to be ready for that, and that's the game you play, and that might be probably more, probably $5,000 just in the bin, really.
Yeah.
You might have fun, but you didn't really get any return out of it.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a job. I think a lot of people discount it.
Yeah,
that
sure.
Guys,
Living the
milking
life,
it
yeah.
or whatnot. And don't get me wrong, there's crew that I believe are probably milking it.
Yep.
But don't let that paint a picture for all of them out there. There's crew out there that are really getting after it and putting in the hard yards and trying to make it as trying to get as much exposure as possible in the right ways and the right terms.
And it is like it'd be easy to sort of look at it and go, like they're living the life, but
well, remember you're watching the video clip at the end, going, "Oh, he's fucking living the life." It's like, well, you don't see all the time away from friends and family, and you don't see living on cans of beans at home and things like that.
Yeah. So yeah, for the people that sort of go, oh, free surfers have the best life, like it's kind of there's components of it that yes, you'd probably prefer
Yeah.
You don't have you're obviously traveling a lot with the tour and you're away, but there's an off season. You've got time off. Admittedly, you're probably using that to train a lot, but you got time off with your family. Like free surfing has its own rigours too. It's not just all
100%.
It's not all just sort of plain sail, straight sail.
It's almost in a way harder. At
Yeah.
least if you're on the CT, you've got a structure.
Yep.
In September, I am going to be here.
Yeah.
Well, not talking about the cut or anything, but
Yeah.
in January, I am going to be at Pipe on this date, whereas a free surfer's just got a blank canvas and they have to create. You have to be way more creative.
For sure.
And here's the thing, if you're doing a clip, you might spend, like Noah Dean spending 6 figures on a clip.
Yep.
If it doesn't do well, you're fucked.
Yes, for sure.
So you have to bring out something, you have to perform, there's a lot of factors there where you have to consider to be successful. It's not all this, rainbows and lollipops. There's actually work there.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people don't see.
Yeah. Well, we've just dribbled for about an hour.
We have dribbled.
We'll cut it there. Hopefully you gained something from that. I was almost, for me, just a little Q&A with Zach there, because I don't sort of see what he gets up to at work, obviously. So it's good every now and then to quiz him on certain things. Obviously, you can't go into too much depth on that because there's certain things that you can and can't say. But it's good to sort of just pick your brain because you're heavily involved in that area, and it's interesting. But yeah, thank you guys again for listening, and
Thank you.
We'll be back next week.
Sounds good. Adios.
See you soon.
Retro.